while, but here I am. It took me a while, but here I am. I had to eat. I had to wait for a phone conversation to stop. But here we go. So I guess we'll just wait for some people. We'll wait for some folks to come back. I didn't put away my stuff. Here I am, showing up. Got my hotel bell. Looks like somebody has joined. We'll see who and where and when. All those W's. We'll see what we can talk about today. What we can talk about now. What do we talk about now? Just to pass the time away. Looks like the wind has calmed down outside. We had some gusty winds. So now that I got my vitamins and nutrients and food, my Reese's peanut butter cups, I guess I'm ready to go for a little while longer. Boy, that seems like sounds screamy. It sounds a bit screamy. That sounds like the ending of MASH. If you don't blow just right, you get that screamy sound. MASH was a very popular show. It's so weird. There's to be just the right flow of air to get good sounds. I guess you'll have to leave me a message. That's so odd. I'm in the middle of a stream. I don't think she knew that. I'm not in the middle of the stream. I'm more at the beginning of a stream. I thought she had already finished talking. She was talking with my mother, my auntie was talking with my mother, and now it seems she's trying to call me. So, who has joined us? Who has joined us? Let me make sure that the chat feature is up and running, because I notice I have to do that from time to time. I have to activate the chat. I hope I'm getting somewhere. I really hope I'm getting somewhere, because since around July is when I think I started, no, before July of last year, I was doing quite a few streams. And just lately I've been kind of gaining momentum. And I'm getting distracted by what's outside. I do love the tree that's right outside the window. I've mentioned that before in other streams. There's a nice like fir tree outside. So is someone, oh, it looks like people are popping in. That's what's happening. So hopefully my eyes will readjust and focus. I am nearsighted. I keep mentioning that. But the last few days I've been getting, wow, clear your throat. I hope some people join me today. It's Sunday, so I think a lot of people should be free today to chat, free to chat. I'm hoping I'm as popular as I think I am. They say people who are fidgety are creative. Those who are fidgety are creative. Kahoga Ninja. Kahoga Ninja. Kahoga Ninja. That's what the star says, on the throwing star, that I'm allowed to have in Georgia. These are a felony in California. I guess I had to move from California to Georgia in order to legally own a throwing star. Stainless steel, Chinese, stainless steel, Kohoga Ninja. Ninja is Japanese, but these are made in China. These are a distraction weapon. It's to cause a distraction. So if somebody's trying to cut you up with a sword, you throw a couple of these at them. I probably would have been a pretty good ninja. Probably. Ninjas were very popular in the 80s. And then after ninjas, it was special forces. On the TV series Kung Fu, I remember at the beginning of every episode, they would show a guy throwing stars. The 6-pointed throwing star. Shuriken. Shuriken, I think it's how it's said. It means underhand sword, or sword underhand. Shuriken. I watched it. A little documentary about ninja truths. So I guess I'll sit here and wait and stare at the monitor, hoping that my eyes will focus, because my eyes definitely need to focus right now. I don't want to have to wear glasses all the time. That's kind of weird. Most of my life I never needed glasses until I turned 50. Until I turned 50. 50 years old. That works pretty well. I could use this to get dirt out from under my fingernails. So someone is watching, it seems. I see it go from a 0 to a 1 and then back to a 0. I guess I'm just learning about streams, about how to properly do a stream. I guess rule number 1 is be interesting. Rule number 2 is ask questions. Ask and answer questions. Talk about stuff that's interesting. Goes as rule number 1. How to do a proper stream. I guess be popular. Be someone that people actually want to talk to. I had 3 likes on the last one, and I'm back for more because now I've eaten something. I'm still a little more nearsighted. I think there's just something going on with I hope it's not a permanent thing. I'm noticing, and I look at this and I can see, but I notice when I get to a certain distance, I guess it's when I'm looking at digital things. When I look at something that's not digital, I can see it, but I can't see it on this screen. I have to go like this to see that 13 minutes have gone by. I really hope some people join me today. I really hope this cut heals soon. It's healed, but it's just now a scab. And I noticed I got a vanilla ice thing going here. I need to cut my hair again. I self-cut. I've gotten pretty good at it. The last video I made, it looked like vanilla ice. And all I can do right now is sit and wait for someone to chat with. Why am I thinking about time travel? It would be nice if I were immortal. If I were unaffected by age. If I were not affected by age. If I were not affected by illness or disease or pain. Then I'd want to live forever. If my body were just the way I like it. 20, 20 in this eye, 20 in this eye. Able to hear everything a human should be able to hear. Feel no pain. Be able to do things that bring me joy and jollies and fun. Joy, jollies, and fun. So this one is not age restricted. That would be weird what happens with people when before glasses were invented, before contacts were invented. It must have really sucked not being able to see the way you used to. I guess there was a video I saw with a guy walking through a wall. Another video I saw of a guy causing paper to burst into flames without a match. He just waved his hands near the piece of paper. I think it was a newspaper. He just held his hands a few inches away from the newspaper, and the newspaper caught fire. That was an interesting talent. Jumping into ice water. There, I guess, a polar bear club. There are people who actually deliberately jump into deliberately jump into ice cold water. They find it refreshing, I guess. So I took another potassium pill. It'd be interesting to see what happens in my future, how my future will play out. Because my future didn't turn out the way I thought it would. And not in a good way. I guess it's interesting to find out, it's interesting to me, divination, accurate divination. I've got this same, my muscles are knotting up. And I'm taking potassium pills. The potassium seems to be helping so that I don't have knotted up muscles. And then massaging. I think I'd be a really good masseuse. I'm my own masseuse. I guess every year you have to have your eyes re-examined. Every year something happens to your eyes. Then you have to get a different prescription. I think that's what it is. I'm under quite a bit of stress. They say stress affects your vision. Stress and anxiety. And I'm trying to focus on things that make me feel better. Sometimes it works. It's the same fart sounds. Wow. So I'm being distracted by the wind. Every once in a while the wind picks up out there. And then it calms. The wind becomes calm. What's interesting is imagination. I keep hearing about how imagination affects our subconscious. And I've mentioned that in a few other streams. Because it really works. It seems like the subconscious really does respond to imagination. When you imagine having having a ball in front of you, hovering, a ball hovering in front of you, and it's a ball of light, and you feel a warmth coming from that ball of energy. And then there's the part where you have to stop thinking about it. Because what's interesting is your subconscious can work on something without you consciously being aware of it. Like if you think of how your future, how you want your future to be, if you think of how you want your future to be all the time, then and then find a distraction, then your unconscious mind will start to work on it. If you want to change a habit, if you want to change a behavior, they say it takes 21 days to change a behavior. Like quitting smoking, quitting gambling, quitting drinking. You almost have to learn how to communicate with your own subconscious. But there's some, I guess, rules of thumb or common ways of communicating. Repetition is one of them. If you keep repeating, that's why people who chant, they chant many, many times. They keep chanting and chanting, and then a change happens when they have chanted for a long time, or like pictures. People use pictures like of a house they want to live in, or a car they want to drive. That image goes into the subconscious. If you look at the image long enough, if you visualize, I've done that a few times. I think I've talked about this before in other streams. Like I'll visualize a quarter, then all of a sudden, a few days later, I'll get a quarter will appear into my reality. You're back! Well, thank you for coming back. Bloblin, I think it's how it's said, Bloblin. Anyways, I was thinking about interesting stuff to talk about. All the right brain stuff, There are people who, oh, you left a like, thank you. Thank you for the like. I guess the right brain, the right hemisphere of the brain is the creative, and then the right is the more analytical part of the brain. And then there's this thing called hemisync. You get both of your hemispheres of your brain to be in sync. They actually do that with sound waves or sounds. People call it binaural beats. I guess there's beats that affect your right brain and your left brain. Marilyn Manson was going to do, I think he did some binaural beats in some of his music that he put out, which is kind of interesting. They when you want to change behaviors, they use binaural beats. some of these YouTube videos, they say wear headphones because both ears have to be affected and with different sounds. I found that quite fascinating. But then again, like stress, anxiety, what to do when you feel stressed and when you feel anxious. I've always been interested in things like that, how the mind works, how they say that the universe is, it's a multiverse. The universe is many different realities happening at the same time, and how you can shift. I think I was talking about that yesterday. People talk about being in the shower. You can shift while you're in the shower. You can think of the reality that you really want to be in and put yourself in that reality. I think that is real because there's a guy from Torrid, the man from Torrid. He was a guy who was detained in China. They put him in a hotel room, or they started interrogating him first, or asking him where he was from. He showed a passport. He pointed to a map where Torrid was from, and then they didn't find him in the hotel room. I always find that kind of interesting. And then there's videos of people doing things when they think they're not being watched. That's where my mind goes. I think that's where a lot of our fantasies come from. There was a movie with Rutger Hauer, and he was able to, he had a staff, and whenever he would strike the ground with his staff, he would evoke a different dimension, which is kind of cool. Another Rutger Hauer movie is Blind Fury. I think in link in this description there is Ed's movie playlist, and if you scroll down you'll see Blind Fury. It's about Rutger Hauer plays a guy who he lost his vision, and someone taught him how to fight with a sword. It's a pretty good action movie. It's up there with RoboCop. RoboCop is another one. Sometimes in the free movies they have RoboCop 3. I'm waiting for that to pop up again. RoboCop all started in the 80s. I remember that when I was in high school. I guess I was really affected by RoboCop. It was sad how he became RoboCop, but it had some humor in it also. Like that car was called the 300 SUX, and how RoboCop would help people. But it's like he was basically mangled in a confrontation with some bad guys, and then they just made him into a cybernetic. I guess in the 80s they had a lot of that, like Terminator. Remember Terminator? They had a lot of this cybernetic organism. Cyberdyne, I guess, was making the bionic. They wanted to bring together people with robots, mix man with machine. That was going on for a long time. Remember the $6 Million Man? Steve Austin. He was in some kind of an accident. They made him part robot, part man. And then they had to make the $6 Million Woman. They play that on cable a lot, depending on what channel you watch. I guess they're starting to do that now. They're starting to implant memory chips. I think Elon Musk is doing something like that. Memory chips. So correct me if I'm wrong. You're the one that was with me before I went to lunch. Somebody was with me right before I went to lunch. there was somebody who was hanging on. So now I'm back in my lawn chair. I'm using my lawn chair inside because lately the weather has not been permitting. I need to wait for the weather to get more permissive. No wind and no rain. Just looking out the window right now. I guess if you notice my eyes dart up, I'm watching the wind blow through the trees. This is going to be a good watch for somebody when they click on this video after when it's no longer live. I've been wondering about that. You know, who watches these videos? Who watches these streams? Because I notice this is all over the world. It's like some people have been seeing my videos in Australia. Some people have been seeing my videos in, I think in India, I think so. But it's like, YouTube is worldwide. I think YouTube just started here in the US, and then it started gradually catching on through the internet, through the online, you know, the interwebs, the Google. And I was bringing my weapon from show and tell, by Cahoga Ninja Star. I was talking about how in California they're a felony. They'll actually put you in prison if you have a throwing star. But here in Georgia, other places too, I've noticed. They were talking a lot about brass knuckles, or some people call them knuckle dusters. I have a few pair of brass knuckles. I used to have a pair in my bag here. I guess I took them out. I tried to have a lot of different things that I could show to make it that much more interesting. I think I'm going to have to give in to my glasses. I'm noticing more and more how blurry. It's like I'm underwater right now when I look around. Oh, I ate 4 Reese's Pieces, or Reese's Peanut Butter Cups, and a ham and cheese sandwich. Ham and cheese and mayonnaise. I was all out of lettuce, so I had to settle for just ham and cheese. What else? I was going to eat some yogurt, but I put the yogurt back. And also a big an orange. It was a navel orange. So I feel like I have nutrients now. I'm nutrified. So were you able to get some sustenance? I used to have a show called Snacking with Ed. People would snack while I was snacking. We would talk about what we were snacking on. I thought that was pretty fun. And I used to have Pizza Friday. Every Friday I'd have pizza. I would make it get it cooked up in the oven. And then I guess people kind of fell away from that. Pizza Friday. I used to have it in the dining area because I was right across from the oven. Here we are talking about food again. I guess food is something we must have. We must have food. And a lot of people get pleasure from certain types of food. Because they call it comfort food. And then my brother and I started to notice we should eat only when we're hungry. Because some people are nervous eaters. I think when I was probably a nervous eater. Whenever I got nervous and I need to calm down, I would eat something. Then I realized I'm not even hungry. You got to be hungry when you eat. It's always interesting to ask people what age they are. Sometimes people can relate. Like when I was growing up in the 70s, the different toys they had. One of them was Stretch Armstrong. There was a toy called Stretch Armstrong. People would put Stretch Armstrong through a lot of different tortures. It was basically a doll that was filled with jelly, and you could stretch him. You could tie him in knots. He just looked like a wrestler, and you could take him and stretch his arms out, stretch his legs. I think people still make videos of Stretch Armstrong. Today we're going to tie an M80 to Stretch Armstrong. And then they started, Stretch Armstrong. That almost sounds like an athlete nickname. Hey, Stretch. I know they called shoes sneakers because they're so soft. You could sneak around in them. Sneak around in sneakers. Then there was a board game called Mousetrap. That was more like just something to play with. I didn't really play the game. It was just making the mousetrap work, you know. And then there was Trouble. It was a board game called Trouble, where they had the Pop-O-Matic bubble. It would tell you how many moves you can make after you pop the bubble. The dice would flip up in the air. Then there was Jaws. Remember that game Jaws? You had a hook, I guess, and you kept removing items from the jaws. It was a shark. I remember it was a big plastic shark, and it had all these items in there. And you take the hook and you grab each of the items out before the jaw closes. Oh, okay. A lot of those really, if you could do searches, sometimes you'll see them. Then there was Don't Spill the Beans. That was another one. There was a big cauldron, and you had to keep putting beans on the cauldron. And each time the top of the cauldron would get heavier, and then it would flip over. Those are some creative. And then there was Operation. Operation was another one. I don't know what generation. A lot of people, you know, you can't really tell when I chat with people. Some people give away where they're from or where they're, what age they are. A lot of people were born after 2000. After 2000 was, they're all the millennials. They're getting a bad rap sometimes. But then I see millennials working at the grocery store. I see millennials carrying on their duties. I guess everybody kind of doesn't like the next generation. What's wrong with these kids today? They even made a song about it. It's like, I guess it depends on the kid. Depends on who's growing up and at what time, whether they fit in or not. There's a lot of henpecking going on. A lot of judging people. Just because they see one group of kids, they think it's everybody, which I don't think is fair at all. Because you get the group of hoodlums, and then you get a group of people they have good upbringing. Sometimes I think it doesn't have anything to do with upbringing. It has, because you could have the best parents, you could have the most caring, loving, nurturing parents, but then some people are just genetically predisposed, I guess. They're genetically designed to just be creeps or weirdos. Somebody was saying they had John Gacy's brain. I was listening to that on a radio show. John Wayne Gacy's brain. She was keeping his brain in a formaldehyde jar in her basement. She was on an interview I was listening to on the radio. I was thinking, wow, they must really want to study, is it physical, physiological, why people do what they do? Some of them I think are because they're they go through a different childhood. They were saying something about that about Ted Bundy, how he grew up, you know, and how his mother, he really didn't like his mother, and also how he picked his victims. A lot of them looked like the girl who rejected him. It is just weird how there are people who prey on other people. They're the predators, and then they're the ones who actually seek to kill people. That's an interesting topic, you know, psychology, what pushes a person to become hardwired, because they say our whatever we go through in life can push us in one or two directions. Then I think those multiple personality disorders, you know, those are brought on by trauma. You know, people take on different personalities, so in any situation they can better adapt. That's always an interesting thing to watch. I was watching a video of somebody who had multiple personalities and how they would change into different personalities. Some of that, it's weird how we adapt. They were saying that about Judy Garland, you know. She was, Liza Minnelli would say that on stage she was Judy Garland, but backstage she was mom. You know, she saw a different Judy than everybody saw on stage. So Judy Garland also went through a lot of stuff. She was told a lot of demeaning things about herself. They said during The Wizard of Oz, um, she was forced to drink coffee and drink coffee and smoke cigarettes. That was her only diet, coffee and cigarettes, because they didn't want her to gain weight. They literally called her a fat pig, and so he's like, man, that was harsh. That's why they come up with these laws, you know, different laws that protect people, like having your break every 2 hours. You have to take a break, and then you have to like at least a half hour to eat. Somebody had to actually make laws so that you could have a lunch hour. It's mind-boggling. People can't just say, so are you ready to take a break? Are you ready to eat? Because I know I can function a lot better when I've eaten. You know, I'm not uh, feeling jittery or nervous, or, you know, once I've had a good meal. And then all that sleep time, you need at least 8 hours of sleep. They say that daylight savings time causes more accidents and heart attacks because of that loss of 1 hour. I think what they need to do is quit that daylight savings time. I've talked to different people about that, you know. Shouldn't 9 o'clock always be 9 o'clock? You know, shouldn't 5 o'clock always be 9 o'clock? Or 5 o'clock should always be 9 o'clock? Because I think we are, it's our rhythms, you know. If you interrupt the rhythm, like think of anxiety. Okay, you oversleep an hour because you forgot to change your clock. You forgot to set your clock ahead. So now you're an hour late for work. And then you got to get in your car and drive to work. And hopefully the traffic is good. Then there's, it's really messes with it. Heart attacks and accidents. All because you want to get to work an hour early. But then what sucks is you have to wait an hour longer to go home from work, you know. It's like, I've done that a few times. I remember when I was working as a cashier, it was time for me to be home, but I thought that I still had an hour to go. So I was well into that hour, and people say, you should have clocked off. should have gone home already. And here you are waiting for that hour to go by. You know, it just has a bad psychological effect and physical. Accidents are caused. It's like, I wonder why. Oh, I got to hurry up and get to work. I'm an hour late. And then there's all these accidents that happen that could be prevented if people didn't have to rush to work because they're an hour late, or maybe even 15 minutes late, and then that whole, your paycheck is going to be affected. You might get a write-up, but it's like, is that really worth it? I don't think it's worth it. Because every time I look at the sun is always at the top of the sky at 12 o'clock. Sometimes I look at my watch and go, oh, really? It's only 12 o'clock. It's not 1 o'clock. It's only 12 o'clock. Just to make myself feel better. So I hope you're liking this. I mean, I haven't got much to offer except to just BS. Sometimes that's what people I find are doing at work. At work, they're BSing because there's no time for social. There's no time for interaction, social interaction, because everybody's working. There's no time to form relationships. There's no time to get to know each other. Everyone has to show up, and then they also have to be working. So yeah, I'll notice people standing and talking because there's no time. Or relationships even. A lot of relationships have to be at work. It's like, because you got no time to go out and date. You got no time to go out and mingle and interact because you have to be at work all the time. Because everybody's dirt poor. They call it the working poor. That's what blows me away. The working poor. Even though you're working, you have to go to your next job, which even burns you out more. Because you have to work at least 2 jobs to pay your rent and to pay for your food and to take care of your kids. Let me know if you agree. I'm just saying what everyone's thinking. And then there's medical care. Or medical not care. I need to start calling it that. Medical don't care. Because what's funny is as soon as they discharge you from the hospital, you're on your own. You're completely on your own. They just get you better so they can put you at that front door so that somebody can come and pick you up and take you somewhere. I notice that when I'm in the hospital. They're all about you when you're in the hospital, when they're taking care of you, feeding you, bringing you your medications, changing out your IV. And as soon as you can be discharged from the hospital, they're all about getting you to that door in the wheelchair. And then you get in the car and they send you off. They say, don't come back so many times, or don't come back again. We don't want to see you again. Because it's like, you got to have a job, and sometimes you're not physically able to work a job. And then the nightmare is trying to get, some kind of a, I want to call it a system. It's not a system. My mind's going blank all of a sudden. Help me out here. What do they call that? Assistance. Yeah, assistance. Subsidize. I guess I need to move back to California. There were a lot of people on subsidies in California. But some states, they don't want to help you. They think, hey, you go ahead, you go back to business as usual. So it's, I just really feel for people, when people wind up, it's no choice of their own. It used to be say, okay, if you don't want to go to jail, don't steal, don't murder, do drugs, don't sell drugs, you know, don't do all that stuff that gets you put in jail. But then you can get into a medical situation. Anyway, here we go again. I'm going back down the dark side of life. So, what can we do to switch? What can we do to switch rails? I was thinking about trains when I think of my mind, because they call it the train of thought. You know, there was a monkey that was switching the rails. They had hired a monkey to change the rails, like when a train was coming and needed to go in a different direction. They had a monkey come out. I wonder if anybody else has heard of that. There was a monkey that would come out and switch the rails. And that's all, just a few inches. All they have to do is change the tracks a few inches. And the train is on a different set of tracks. So that's what I need to do for my listeners. What I need to do for the people. When I find myself going down that dark set of rails, the crazy train. I'm going off the rails on this crazy train. I've heard a lot of stories about Ozzy Osbourne. There's so many things that he's done. They wonder why he's still alive. They say it's mostly his genetics. That's how they say the Black Plague ended. It wasn't an antidote. You know, like polio. They had that sugar cube that they gave people. It was genetic. Some kind of mutation, I guess, made it to where people survived the Black Plague, which was pretty nasty. The bubonic plague, people actually got bumps on their skin. A lot of people were killed. What was the other one? The cholera? Cholera was another one. One of the symptoms was people appeared to be dead. People would be accidentally buried alive. Then they started attaching bells to people. I think you've heard this story. They would, when they bury people, they would attach a bell to them because there was a chance that they would come to while they were in their grave. And the bell would ring and they would dig them up, which is pretty traumatic for the person who is under there. You know, it takes a while to dig 6 feet down. So I actually went on a ghost tour one time. It was where that had happened. They were told a story about a guy who was buried alive, and his spirit actually appeared to somebody to tell them, "Hey, I'm not dead." Sometimes animals can detect when someone's not dead. There was a raven. I think people have seen that video. There was a raven who appeared at a girl's funeral. It just wouldn't stop squawking. And then they opened the casket and found out the girl was not dead. She had a certain condition that I guess they cured. Animals really respond emotionally, especially to a deceased owner. There was one dog that hung around a person's grave for a long time. So, yeah, they love us as much as we love them. Our dogs, our cats. I think I've already talked about that one cat that was at a rest home. I think his name was Mr. Whiskers or something like that. This cat would, whenever this cat would sit on someone's lap, they would call the next of kin to say that they were get ready, the person's going to pass away. The cat was just 100% accurate. So if ever that kitty cat comes and sits on your lap, you're going to be, it's time to meet your maker. So what else could we talk about? I'm going to talk about this grim stuff. You ever hear about the Edmund Fitzgerald? They made a song about that. That actually happened. There was Lake Superior. They call it Gichigumi. If you ever heard that song, it's a really interesting song. It's like a spooky song. A good one to play during Halloween parties. Called The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. I think that's the name of the song. The Wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. And I guess the lake is so big that it has these really harsh storms, and a storm happened. Oh yeah? Cool. So we'll call this a podcast. Listening to the wreck of the Edmund Fitzgerald. It's kind of funny because my name is Edmund. Whenever I say my name, people are reminded of Narnia. Oh yeah, Edmund from Narnia. Edmund is a good English name, I was told. Edmund. I think there was some, yeah. But yeah, if you ever get a chance to hear that song, a lot of those songs, like Ring Around the Rosie, I think that was about the cholera epidemic. Oh my God, where's my mind gone? I'm talking about all these grim things. There's all these floods and hurricanes, Fukushima, global warming, pipes freezing and bursting, people eating each other. I guess cannibalism is a pretty common thing. I'm always reminded of the Donner Party. I actually used to live in that area. It was called Donner Summit. We would go through Donner Summit whenever we go to Portola. Whenever we went back to visit Portola, we had to go through the Donner Summit. And actually have a rest stop there. It's called Donner Summit, where people ate each other. Then there's that Edgar Allan Poe story that actually happened. It was weird how he wrote about some guys on a boat, and some people had to be eaten on that boat. It's amazing. They say hunger is a driving force. Some people prefer to eat people. Did you hear about that story? There was a guy who wanted to eat somebody, and then he found a guy who wanted to be eaten, and they met each other. There's a Japanese guy who ate people. He had I guess he didn't have to serve any time for it. I always recommend Morbid Thoughts if you're into that kind of stuff. Morbid facts. That's how he starts all of his videos. Morbid facts. Or morbidly wholesome facts. There was one guy I keep thinking about. He was a big guy, and he took on a polar bear and won. The guy was attacked by a polar bear, and he killed the polar bear and made a coat. He made a coat out of the polar bear's skin. And then here's a gruesome story. They said he was buried in a avalanche. He was buried in an avalanche, and he made a dagger out of his frozen turd. He took one of his turds and forged into a dagger and dug his way out of the avalanche. And then they said he removed some of his frostbitten toes with a pair of pliers. That's pretty badass. I got me some frostbitten toes. I'm going to take a pair of pliers and break them off. And then you hear about that one guy who, I guess he was a hiker, and he got his arm. They made a whole movie about it. This guy he got his arm caught in between a rock and a hard place, and he had to break his own arm off to get away. He would have just laid there and starved. So it's like, man, that's pretty hardcore. It was a pretty hard to watch movie. And I remember on the radio they were talking about his story. Somehow he got his arm caught between a rock and a cliff or something like that. Let me know if you've heard of this. The guy had to take his pocket knife, I guess, and cut through his flesh and then break his own arm off. I've heard about wolves doing that. Wolves and foxes and coyotes, I guess. Oh my. They would get their paw caught in a trap. They would gnaw their paw off. Wow, it's amazing where my brain goes. I guess I need to pull myself out of it. Pull myself out of this. What can we talk about? All these grim stories about people in their predicaments. So how's everybody doing? What other stuff can I think off the top of my head? Different customs people have. There's a tribe where they have these bullet ants in a funnel. It's a woven funnel. It's woven out of like plant fibers. And in order to achieve manhood, you have to stick your hand in this funnel. It's full of bullet ants. One bullet ant is excruciating. You're supposed to stick your... You have no idea. Oh yeah? Am I making you laugh? Talking about bullet ants. There's this guy who I saw who actually wanted to rate each creature as far, as far as how much pain their bite causes. I think one of them was a bullet ant. But anyways, in order to be a man in this tribe, you have to stick your hand in this funnel. Oh, you know that? Yeah. So you know what I'm talking about. And you have to do it without shedding a tear. You can't shed a tear. If you shed a tear, you have to do it all over again. It's like, wow. And then the Navajo have a certain custom too. There's this chief, I think he's either a chief or a medicine man. Yeah. Fancy that. Yeah, there's some pretty harsh customs. I know chimpanzees don't like it when you bring a birthday cake to one chimpanzee. They will tear you. They'll tear you apart. Chimpanzees will tear you apart, Lisa. I was talking about that yesterday. Orcas. There was an orca that did a trick, and the trainer didn't see the orca do the trick, and the orca killed her. They say that's part of being in captivity. They are, isn't that weird? It's like, or they feel left out. You know, the psychology of animals. They say dolphins can get depressed too. I think I was talking about that yesterday. The dolphin that played Flipper was actually a female dolphin. And she just hated being in captivity so much. She wound up just drowning herself. People have been known to... there was a guy who was kept in captivity. And it was like he was an attraction. Then do you ever see that movie Freaks? Oh, if you go to my community page, or you go to my channel and click on community. If you scroll down, there's a clip from the movie Freaks. Gobble gobble, we accept her, we accept her. That was kind of like that movie Tusks. You ever watch that movie Tusk? I think that was a Kevin Smith movie. The same guy that was in Jeepers Creepers. He was like the focus of the movie. This crazy guy turned him into a walrus. I am the walrus, cuckoo-ca-choo. That was a disturbing movie to watch. This guy, I guess, came to his house for an interview, and then turned him into a walrus, kept him in his yard. It's like, gee whiz. But anyways, that's kind of how Freaks wound up. They turned her into like a chicken woman. Not to spoil the movie. That was a pretty interesting movie to watch. It's about a bunch of people who are carnival attractions. They had the worm guy. I remember Ripley's Believe It or Not. There was a book, Ripley's Believe It or Not, and he was featured in that book. I think it was made back in the 30s. It was really weird. The guy was it was always scary to watch that. When I was a kid, I was opening up that book and looking at all those different people that were differently shaped. And so yeah, there was a guy with no legs. That seems to be happening quite a bit lately. I see a lot of people on YouTube. They have no legs, no arms, or they're missing a leg, or and I guess we have a certain idea of what's normal, and when we see something that's not usual, I guess it plays with our brains because we're used to seeing images, and when that image is distorted or differently shaped, it really has an effect on us. Kind of like leprosy. Leprosy was they say don't touch an armadillo. There was this girl, I think she's still on YouTube. There's a woman who I guess studies parasites, and she was saying you can get leprosy from an armadillo. She says it a couple of times, don't touch an armadillo. Do not touch an armadillo. And here in Georgia, we see armadillo who are roadkill. These poor armadillos. I guess they're nocturnal, so they get hit a lot. And we just see, and what's funny is Texas Roadhouse, I think it's called Texas Roadhouse, they have a taxidermed, I think at least 2 taxiderm armadillos. They're really interesting looking creatures. They look like an aardvark that has an armor on them. That's what armadillo means. It means little armored one or something like that. I guess the Spanish conquistadors saw it and they called it the armadillo. That's what we'll call you, an armadillo. They're so cute, but they can give you leprosy. They say leprosy messes with your nerves. So your nerves, that's why people are missing limbs. Because they lose a finger and they don't realize they've lost a finger. I'm trying to remember the name. There was a leper king. God, I remember seeing the video of that, a leper king. He was a badass king who had leprosy. And I can't remember his name. But that was the story behind the guy. I guess he had leprosy. He was a ruler he was a king. And he was kind of like Alexander the Great. Alexander the Great, after he died, or right when he died, they asked him who should take over the kingdom. And he said, the strongest. And that sparked a 50-year war. So everybody wanted to try to prove who was stronger. 50 years? And then there was the 100 Years' War between English and the French. What's interesting is they seem to have at least a truce. But then you hear about Israel and Benghazi, Israel and Palestine, I think. They've been fighting for centuries. And there's no truce. It just keeps going. It's like, wow, they got a lot of effort, a lot of spare time, I guess. They say when there's peacetime, it's when they're reloading. They're just reloading. Or they have to wait for the next generation. They say every 20 years. Yeah, frenemies. I remember there was a Guten Tag. Okay, it looked like a big club. It was a big club with spikes in it, and the Germans would say Guten Tag, and which meant good morning or good day. You had to say good day, and if you didn't answer with Guten Tag, they would kill you with that club. You remember that story? That was a pretty interesting story. The Germans would carry around this huge club with spikes in it, and they would say Guten Tag. That's how they would know that you were a foreigner. You know, I guess the French, they were trying to keep the French out of their area. Another one was like they were around during the Roman Empire. They kept off Germanicus. I think it was Germanicus, or was the emperor at that time. They actually stood up to the Roman Empire, the Germanic tribes or Germanic Empire or the Germanic Kingdom or whatever. If I remember my history right, yeah, they're frenemies. I used to hear John Cleese of Monty Python. Monty Python. He would talk about that. We just don't like the French. Joan of Arc was a kind of a tragic story. She was on the side of the French, and God was telling her how to win battles. And then I guess the English caught her. The English caught her and burned her as a heretic. It's like, it's crazy how they need to really not take for granted those things. You know, somebody who says they're talking to God and they're winning battles. It's like, come on. But I guess they couldn't rescue her. You know, the English had captured her. I think that's the way the story went. Wasn't it Louis the 15th? Oh, not Louis. Henry the 8th, I think it was. I might be wrong. But he got so obese, he actually had people called groomers of stool. Ever heard of that story? It was one of the Henrys, I know that. I think Henry the 8th. He was the one who crowned himself Pope or something like that. If I remember my history, he would, yes, you have. He got to be so big. King Louis, it took a couple of chops to decapitate him. His execution was hindered because he had such a fat neck. That was another. No, I haven't. Oh, he exposed it. Yeah, he explains it all. Yeah. I would not want to be a groomer of stool. To have that sponge on the end of a stick. You got to take care of the king's bum. You must take care of the king's arse. And that's how, and you shall be paid bi-monthly. But what are some weird, grim, oh, the humbles? You ever heard of humble pie? The humbles were like the intestines of the animal. Everybody who was high class, they actually got the meat of the animal, you know, and the innards were the humbles. That's where they got the humble pie. I guess you have to eat humble pie. That's kind of terrible, isn't it? You don't have a choice whether you're rich or poor. Because I know I've worked hard. I've worked quite hard. And I think I should be richer than I am. I think I should have more influence than I do. But here I am. But you know what? This could be the start of something. It's no accident. They say there are no accidents. There are no coincidences. I guess another word is serendipity. Serendipity. Serenskibity. Serendipity. It's like you find yourself in a situation like this guy, a meteor fell through his roof made a hole in his roof, and that meteor was made out of a substance that was quite valuable, a couple of $1 million. One guy went boating one time, and he found a this oddly shaped. He thought it was just a rock, and he kept it, and it turned out to be the biggest pearl. One of the big. It was just this ugly looking, smooth rock, and he kept it. And his house burned down, and he kept it under his bed, and that's how it was preserved. It was like, wow, what? That's cool. That's luck. Have you ever watched those shorts? The guy who has a metal detector, he goes around with a metal detector and he finds like gold coins. One guy found some Roman coins. It's like, wow, right now I think an ounce of gold is over $2,000. So if you found like a kilo, could you imagine that? You just start digging around in the ground and you find a huge chunk of gold. You could retire on it. And then you hear about these pets that outlive their owners. Like a parrot. I guess parrots live a long time. Tortoises. Some people will money, they will fortunes to their pets, you know. Oh, which reminds me of Kingdom of Pets. In the description, I have a link to my website. It's called Kingdom of Pets. I almost forgot about that. There's a lot of other cool ones. One link is See Your Soulmate. There's this guy, Mr. Wang. He has a psychic ability that allows him to see soulmates. And you just ask him, what does my soulmate look like? And he's able to draw it for you, or draw him or her. So let's switch tracks again. I'm so business. I've been so business lately. I've been trying so hard and working so hard at promoting my links because I'm an affiliate, I guess an affiliate marketer. I have all these links that I'm affiliated with. So that's how I'm making my money these days, because I can't be a regular 9-to-5-er anymore. What else can we talk about? My Ninja Star? I've heard that the Ninja Star itself isn't deadly, but what they do is they put poisons on the points, which is kind of makes sense. You know, each one of these points would have a poison. They would dip them into poison, and then they would just toss them at people, and the point would envenomate, I guess. There's a lot of interesting ninja weapons. There's a ring that they have. They would do the same thing on the ring. There's a ring with little spikes on it, and they would walk up and slap you with this ring that has spikes in it, and that's how they poison you. There was one movie where a ninja was up in a rooftop, and he had a thread, and he would lower the thread down and put poison on the thread, and that's how they would let the thread carry the poison down into somebody's mouth. So there you are laying there asleep, and here comes a thread or a piece of yarn, it looks like, and they would put the poison onto the thread. Oh, I got nobody now. Aw. So I guess I didn't see a goodbye. I don't know. I'm starting to feel like a chimpanzee. I'm a little upset now. Usually people say goodbye, or they say bye. I gotta go, bye. So maybe somebody went to go get a snack or something. I gotta know how long to do this. How long do I do this? So it's like an hour and 19 minutes. So I guess tonight it's gravy, sausage gravy, biscuits, Texas toast. We have Texas toast. All we have to do is toast the Texas toast. Wow, I had 2 people and now I have nobody. Let's see what the last interjection was. He explains it all. Have you ever watched Oversimplified? Okay. Yes. Okay. Wow, I've been talking to one person, and then there was another person kind of, yeah, huh. Well, I'm sad to see everybody go. I guess I'll sit here and bullshit some more. Bullshit, bullshit, bullshit. That's odd. Usually people say, I gotta go, bye. I gotta go, see ya. That always makes me wonder if I've offended somebody. If they just cut out, if they just leave. It's like, this guy's talking way too much. I'm gonna go. I'm gonna go. He's talking way too much. I used to sit this far and be able to see. Jeepers, creepers, where'd you get those peepers? Well, that's a good. A good interjection there. He's saying that I'm like listening to a podcast. Oh, I'm just listening to. Oh, I'm just listening to this like it's a podcast while I play Fortunate. Wow, I've been talking to that same person. Wow, that person stuck with me for a while. So we'll just wait till it fades. I noticed there was a 2 up there. So maybe somebody was a bystander. I only got 1 like though. Wow. Blurry vision. Blurry vision. I shouldn't have it. I'll be glad when this is finally gone. This here. It looks like it's going away. It's a scab. So I guess maybe that's what offended. But you know what? I have to talk about my businesses, my affiliate marketing. I need to find better ways to market. Let's see if we can keep this up a little longer. Normally I have people visiting me. There's a group of people who work in a movie theater. I think they're from Canada. There's also a guy who watches Formula One. I think he's in Denmark. I haven't heard from any of those guys in a while. What else would they be doing today? It's Sunday. We're going into the evening. I should do things for donations. I'll see if I can play a tune for a donation. That was Judy Garland's favorite song. Somebody is joined. Name that tune. I got an itchy nose. Hello again. I remember you from yesterday. Yesterday, love was such an easy game to play. Now I need a place to hide away. Oh, I believe in yesterday. I said something wrong. Now I long for yesterday. Yesterday. My mom has a music box that plays that song. She had it ever since I was a little boy. I was born on Paul McCartney's birthday. He was born June 18th. I felt kind of special when I heard that. One time I said, yeah, I was born on Paul McCartney's birthday. And she goes, oh yeah? It's like she didn't know who Paul McCartney was. That's what I could do for donations. I should put my donations link. Oh, really? Tro. Oh, wow. Oh, really? How does that said? That's tro to cite. Is he? I don't know how to read that. What's that? Tro to cite. Anyway, so you're born on his birthday? So I guess we're special in that respect. We were born on certain birthdays. I've always been interested in astrological signs, like Gene Wilder, Johnny Depp, Paul McCartney. Who else? They're all Geminis. A lot of them. Angelina Jolie. Who was it? Natalie Portman. They're all born Geminis. And then there's the Scorpios and Leos and Tauruses. You know what? The CIA, they study, like, there are certain zodiac signs that are more likely to commit certain crimes. They were going through a whole video about that. Like, what zodiac sign will commit which crime. It's kind of fascinating. Every culture seems to have a zodiac sign. I know the Chinese have it. The Greeks have it. Sometimes even the Celts, I think, have a zodiac. Like I think Navajo and the Lakota. I'm not sure. It's been a while. Depending on what year you were born, what month you were born. I've always wanted to be born on the night of a full moon. I think that'd be pretty cool. Maybe I should ask, were you born on the night of a full moon? And then kind of study their personality. I know Tom Cruise and Tom Hanks are both Cancer. I notice a lot of people that I like are Aries. What's that guy? Tony Stark. Oh, you're the rabbit. The year of the rabbit was last year. Yeah, the Greek zodiac. Oh, it, oh, Scorpio. Okay, quite a yeah. Scorpio is a water sign. One of my buddies in California, he was a Scorpio. One of my buddies. We had the same kind of interests, you know. He was he liked going to college a lot, so we would talk a lot about the elements because he was into chemistry and geology. Also, history. We used to always like talking about history, different wars, and politics. He really didn't like. He understood politics and didn't like it, and I'm kind of like that too. I understand politics, but don't like it. It's all about mob rule, you know, a group of people deciding what happens to everybody else. I think I could put this away. Start getting into the nitty gritty. What is the nitty gritty of today? I keep thinking about pizza. One of my shorts that I made today were, what do you like on your pizza? What do you like on your pizza? Year of the Rabbit. One of my bosses was Year of the Rabbit. Yeah, last year. This is Year of the Dragon. The new year for China is, or the Chinese New Year starts in February. I have it marked on my calendar. I'm Year of the Monkey, and monkey is ally to the dragon. We're our allies are the dragon and the rat. I seem to get along with Year of the Rat and Year of the Dragon. They say seek the dragon or the rat. So maybe this year will be more favorable to me. Maybe I'll hear more good news. Last year was just bad news all the time, which kind of feeds into my feeds it, or it makes me not be optimistic. I guess I'm naturally optimistic, unless I get too much bad news. That's what's really bothered me lately. Is like I don't like any bad news. And I've noticed like they say things come in threes, you know. And I've had more than three. But you know what? I've had a lot of good things happen. And I need to acknowledge that, you know. Some of them had to do with my car. My car is in good working order now. I just need to raise more funds because I need new tires. I need new tires. I've got one new tire and I need 3 more new tires. That's why I'm doing these marketing, affiliate marketing. I guess that sounds good. What do you do, Ed? Well, I'm into affiliate marketing. I have websites and people come to those websites and I get a commission. Some people say that's a good way to earn money is commissions. Like if you're a car salesman, you get a percentage of that car that was sold. Or if you're a real estate agent, people who are into real estate make lots of money. At certain times, whether it's a buyer's market or a seller's market, I think that's a stock market. But could you imagine? Because houses are wildly expensive now. And if you happen to sell a house, my fear is always taxes, you know, paying your taxes. I don't know why, okay, when you buy something at the store, you pay your taxes right then and there. You know, if you buy a pair of slippers or a basketball or whatever, it's they take out the taxes right then and there. I wonder why they can't do that with your paycheck. It's like, okay, here's your paycheck. We're going to take 27% or 24%, you know, and then that's it. But and then why can't they just give you a break right then and there? You know, oh, you're paying for this typewriter, you know, you're paying for this laptop that you're going to use for your business. Okay, well then you don't pay taxes on that. Yeah, isn't that? And it's like, why do they have to add insult to injury? By the way, you have to pay tax. What if you spend all of your money? You still owe that tax. Because sometimes you get, like, you buy yourself food, you buy yourself clothing, you pay all your bills, and that's where all your money goes. And now you owe taxes on all that money you spent that you had to spend, which is kind of harsh. That's harsh, Cher. One of these days, Jesse Ventura. Jesse Ventura. He said that if he were president, he would abolish the income tax. You know, tax the right people. You know, tax the people who have tons of money. You know, people who wouldn't miss it. You know, I definitely miss that money. You know, hey, I want to buy a pair of shoes, a pair of socks, a bag of underwear. You know, I want to buy a new microwave. You know, it's like, that's where all my money goes. I want to pay for my heat. I want to pay for my gas. I want to pay for my electric bill. That's where all my money goes. And then you want me to pay taxes at the end of the year? Are you crazy? And then there's penalties too. You can't sell your house. I don't know. It's a broken system is what it is. I'm telling you, it's a broken system. And then there's healthcare. It's like you don't have a choice in healthcare, but it costs a lot of money. They do put a price tag. If you want to live longer, kind of like cyanide capsules. Like I hear in Sweden, you're allowed to, Sweden and Canada, I hear Sweden and Canada, they call it death with dignity. Like you can choose, people are choosing death over homelessness. They don't want to be homeless, so they choose to just end their own lives. Doctor assisted. Jack Kevorkian got into a lot of trouble for that. He just wanted to help people die who wanted to die. Jack Kevorkian, Dr. Death. I think he was the one who pioneered the whole idea. Everybody else is like, yeah, if you got cancer, your treatments aren't working, you don't want to suffer, so you could have that option. But wow, my mind's been going in some weird places today. I was talking about diseases and cannibalism, eating spiders. Hello. Well, it's I guess if I add humor to it, it's okay. Like when you watch these horror films, they add humor to the horror. Like watching, you know what? They put scorpions in lollipops. I think in Mexico, they have these lollipops with scorpions in them. And also, I think in Mexico, they serve scorpions. You can buy them and buy the bag, I guess. People just like to eat scorpions. Also squid. I've eaten squid. I think they called it lihing mui or something like that. When I was in Hawaii. I was on Oahu. And they had this, no, lihing mui was, I think, seeds. Cuttlefish. Squid. Yummy. If it's prepared just right. I remember there's this stuff called cuttlefish. It looked like dried up chicken. Lihing mui was a seed. It was a seed. Yeah, it's a powder. I remember that. Yeah, sour fruit. It was like a brown seed. It looked like a, kind of like a peach pit or a cherry pit or something like that. Lihing Bui. So you're from where I'm from. Yeah, dried cuttlefish. Yeah. So it's actual cuttlefish. Cuttlefish. Who wants to cuddle with a fish? I remember those came in plastic bags. Used to chew on them like they're jerky. That's another thing I like is jerky. Beef jerky. Teriyaki. That's what I remember they had at school. They had teriyaki. Teriyaki. They had like a beef patty and a scoop of rice, and then they put teriyaki over it. Delicious. I like to do that again. Yeah, you can. You know what? Another underrated one is rabbit. People say rabbit meat is really good. It's a tender meat. Also, rabbits multiply and they're easy to skin. They're easy to care for. They just shit a lot. Rabbits poop quite a bit. I remember we had a rabbit in Hawaii. We had a rabbit. We would let him get out and walk around or hop around in the yard. We had rabbits. There was Michael Moore had a movie. He made quite a few movies. Roger and Me. Have you ever watched Roger and Me? He's a guy who does documentaries. He was the guy who pissed off Matt and Trey. Matt and Trey from South Park, they were in one of his movies, Bowling for Columbine. Yeah. Have you seen Mousetrap Monday? There's this guy. Look up Mousetrap Monday. Every Monday he tests out a different mousetrap. He also hunts. He hunts and eats rats. Actually has videos of how to trap rats and how to prepare them. It's like, wow, if you got since rats can be a problem, there'll be no problem if you eat them. Imagine them on a rotisserie, you know. You can get all these shish kebabs, or skewers. You put them on skewers and just cook them over the fire. All right, everybody, it's time to eat. Time to eat some rats. Put teriyaki on them and see what they taste like. Rats and rabbits. And then there's stews. There's a stew that has never been emptied. Yeah, rabbit meat. I wonder how many restaurants serve rabbit and duck. I think Chinese restaurants are probably the only people who prepare and serve duck. I'd probably eat some rabbits if rabbits were on the menu. Rabbit stew used to be a thing. Rabbit stew. You got to catch those rabbits. Yeah, I think people have too much compassion for the rabbits. Nobody wants to eat a rabbit. They're so cute and fluffy. They eat lettuce, and I hear rabbits are associated. Yeah, French and Belgian. And I was thinking how easy it would be to corral them, if they were your livestock. Like chickens just hang around in the yard until it's time to eat. Chickens and rabbits. Rabbits might be pretty easy to catch too, depending on how big and fluffy they are. Catch yourself a nice juicy rabbit. Anyways, there's a scene in Roger and Me where a lady was preparing a rabbit while she was being interviewed by Michael Moore. Then that Bowling for Columbine was another one that he made. But then he did like Fahrenheit 9/11. So that's an interesting series of documentaries. Most of them had like a political twist to it, or what do you call it? Overtones. He didn't like George Bush. And, oh, I'm bumping the tripod. That sounds like an expression. Bumping the tripod. Oh, he's bumping the tripod. Another one was the Kool-Aid. Drinking the Kool-Aid. Let's go, Reverend Moon. That was a horrible situation. They forced a lot of people to drink that Kool-Aid. Then there was that comet. Who was that guy? There was a group of people who this guy was a leader of. Dave Koresh was another one. I think that was back in the 90s. Very, yeah, cults. Cults never seem to be helpful, you know. Most of the cults we hear about. There's a lot of people that they think are cults, or they suspect of being cults. A lot of them involve money and mind control. One thing that's interesting is like Alex Jones, who's been getting into trouble lately. I used to listen to some of his work. He would come on as a guest on Coast to Coast. Coast to Coast was a radio show I'd listen to. It was around 10 o'clock, yeah. 10 o'clock over there in California. Good afternoon, good evening, wherever you may be. Welcome to Coast to Coast. I guess he was a ham radio operator at one time. I know that, who was the other guy? The guy who was on before him. Hold on. There we go. Yeah, the only difference between is time. Yep, just give it time. Years will tell what the days cannot. That's what I used to always hear. My brother would say, years can tell what the days cannot. Life is an interesting thing because they say we don't even know what awareness is. I notice my awareness during dream time takes me places. Sometimes to the same place. I'll have dreams about the same place. They say if you dream about somebody, that means they want to see you. Some people have dreams, they have the same dream. My brother was talking about that. One of his friends had a dream, and they both dreamed the same dream. I wonder if that has to do with astral projection. When we go in our astral bodies somewhere, what we actually do. Do we go to far off places? Do we go somewhere over the rainbow? Yeah, that's another study I like to do. Or another short. Do you have a reoccurring dream? What's your dream about? I don't have reoccurring dreams. I have lucid dreams. You know, like I have trouble distinguishing if it's really happening or not. I've had that. My dreams have been that vivid. It's like I can't tell if this is a dream or not. And then I wake up and I'm glad it is a dream. I'll have dreamed like I wrecked my car, or I have a dream that that I'm in trouble for something, and then I'll wake up and realize, hey, that was just a dream. And I'm so relieved, because it's amazing where your mind goes. And then I think that this is a dream. It's like, why do I keep coming back to this dream? Why is this dream more real than all my other dreams? Why is that? Sometimes it's contracts. I hear about spiritual contracts. We make contracts that we have to stick to. Some people have near-death experiences. They say, "Oh yeah, I chose this life. That's why I'm here. I chose it." It's like I would choose a better life, I think. Sometimes it's just our, what do they call it? Our life lessons. Our souls have to go through something in order to learn. It's not good or bad. It's just a lesson for the learning. That's what I heard a guy say. A woman had died, and the angels would tell her, it's neither good nor bad. It's just a lesson for the learning. It's like, okay, what lesson am I supposed to learn? How to be poor? what to do if I'm poor? How to probably be happy no matter what happens? I think I'm onto something there. That would be net. I'd like to get some funding to do some research. Funding and research to find out, did we choose to be here? Because there's only so much that I can take. Yeah. Some of them make a lot of sense, don't they? These parables or these sayings. So it's interesting because sometimes this comes from an experience. Some people have an experience, and and then they learn from it and they pass on that knowledge. I was like hearing about Greek philosophers. I've heard that it's also possible to die laughing. You can actually die laughing. Some people actually did that. One guy's, oh, interesting. That could be an overcoming. Have you heard of the dream weaver? There was a lady on the radio who called herself a dream weaver, and she would interpret dreams. Butterflies usually symbolize a transformation, I guess. At least that's the way I think of it. Because you go from this caterpillar into being a butterfly, and then butterflies is like, that's quite a change. You go from crawling on plants, crawling on the ground, to being able to fly. It is cool, yeah. And it's like they weave themselves into that cocoon. I saw one time when I was in California on a bike trail. There was a bike trail, and then there was a bench by the bike trail. Huh. You know what? Past lives are like that. Past lives, there are people that say that they weren't human in a past life. They were another kind of creature. Because I think sometimes that's how our memory works. What's weird about the subconscious is we can store things in our subconscious from past lives. That's why past life regression, in order to have a past life regression, they put you into a hypnotic state. And when you're in hypnosis, you can revisit that memory. As Einstein was saying that everything exists at the same time. The only reason there's time is because so everything doesn't happen at once. And that kind of makes sense. It's like, imagine everything happening at once. That's why there's time. Because it's like, okay, first you get hungry, you eat a sandwich, then you go to the bathroom, and or you need fire, so you split some logs, then you bring the logs inside, and then you start a fire. Imagine that all happening at once. So I think that's what it is. Like that, I think that's why they're saying time travel is possible. You just have to find a way to get back to where you were in the timeline. They say that's where the Mandela effect happens. You know, you have that Mandela effect because different timelines cross, different universes, and so the dog is acting up out there. My mom's gonna have to get off the phone. So yeah, and let the dog out. So those are some interesting concepts. You know, all these parallel universes. They say there is a you, an ideal you somewhere in the multiverse, and they say you can actually shift to that ideal you in that universe. You know, I got a nose itch. I don't know where it's coming from. That's kind of odd. Like I think it was in this episode I was talking about how people go into the shower, and they say that's the best time to do a reality shift. Because there's some movies people swear were made, like Shazam. There was a movie they say was never made with Shaquille O'Neal, I think it was. Also, the Berenstein Bears and the Berenstein Bears. They say both people are right. One video I was watching, this guy walks into a room with a book, a Berenstein Bears book, and when he goes into that room, it changes. Yeah, yeah, and people swear, or like mirror, mirror on the wall. Instead of mirror, mirror on the wall, I think it was magic mirror on the wall. The other one was like Darth Vader. He says, "No, I am your father." And some people say, "Luke, I am your father." Wasn't it Tommy Boy? Tommy Boy, where Chris Farley was talking into the fan, and he says, "Luke, I am your father." And that's what he remembered. That's how he remembered the line. But then you play it back and it says, "No, I am your father." Yeah, isn't that weird? It's like, that's so mind-boggling. It's like how people remember things. And have you ever watched, what was that movie? A Clockwork Orange? There was a guy in the Clockwork Orange who had a no talking role. It was a non-speaking role. He was the guy who picked up the paralyzed guy. That guy played Darth Vader. And if you watch him, he looks like Darth Vader. If you were to dress him up, it was the scene where, okay, Singing in the Rain, when Malcolm McDowell's character kicks him and paralyzes him, he meets up with him later, and then there's his caregiver. You know, his caregiver um, comes and picks him up. That guy would play Darth Vader, but they used James Earl Jones' voice. You probably already know this. Yeah, James Earl Jones' voice they used because his voice wasn't intimidating. He would just say, "I want them alive," you know. So they decided to take James Earl Jones. He also played another villain. Remember Conan the Barbarian? He played Salsa Doom. He had the same kind of voice. "That is strength, boy. That is power." That was the original Conan. One of my favorites. They tried to remake Conan, and I thought, man, that was a bad idea. That movie was so good. But it's interesting that they call it typecasting. I think he was in Meteor Man. Meteor Man was another pretty good movie. It was an all-black cast, and James Earl Jones was in that movie also. So, yeah, there was. What else can I remember? What are some Mandela effects? I've watched some of my own shorts and I go, I don't remember saying that. Or sometimes I'll watch the same short a couple of times and it'll switch back and forth. Like I'll say something and it won't be what I remember saying in the short. And then it'll switch back to what I do remember saying in the short. So, who is that guy who was talking about CERN? How something happened at CERN that destroyed our universe the way we know it. And Max Logan, he was like a 13-year-old boy genius. I think he's about 17 now, but he was talking about that's actually possible. He was actually drawing diagrams and talking about how, yeah, there are um, multiple universes or alternate universes. So wonder if I like to wake up in a different universe. That's happened to people. There was a girl, there were stories online about that, about how a woman woke up and she was with a boyfriend that she had just broken up with, and she came into work and work wasn't the same, you know. Sometimes it's people just driving down roads. They'll drive down roads and they'll see a town there. It's like, and the people in the town are real creepy and strange. And one person went to somebody's house. They were walking down a dirt trail, I think. They went to somebody's house and talked to the person, and then came back later and the house wasn't there anymore. Interesting stories. So we'll have to do more research, I guess. Get some funding. I know NASA is very highly funded. They're able to go to other planets and put rovers. Have you seen some of those robots that are coming out? Those Tesla robots. On my when you click on community on my channel, if you scroll down, there's some robots that were testing a bulletproof car. It was so cool to watch. It's like they're a lot more cooler looking than C-3PO, but they're humanoid like that. The robot puts on a cowboy hat and has a, what are they called? They call it the Devil's Typewriter. Those Tommy gun. He had a Tommy gun. The robot fired a Tommy gun at this car. The other robot gets out and says, "I'm alive," which is kind of fascinating, you know. I'm watching stuff that I used to watch only in sci-fi movies, and it's happening before my eyes. Flying cars. Flying cars are becoming more popular too. Literal flying cars. And they're kind of set up like drones. You know, these drones that are that can carry people. Some of them have cockpits. Some of the cockpits are covered. One guy had like a skateboard. It was a flying skateboard. It just had these 4 little propellers on it, like a drone. I thought, wow, that's a good way to get around. But then a windy day, you'd have to ground all those crafts. If it's a really windy day or really rainy day, it might be kind of hard to fly. And then I think there'd need to be some training. No DUIs. Could you imagine being drunk and flying a car? You could crash into a tree, crash into another craft. That reminds me of Heavy Metal. You remember watching the cartoon Heavy Metal, where they had those flying cars? It was the New York scene. What was it, Harry Canyon? Transcar message service. Message for Harry Canyon. I wonder if now we have texts and everything. That's how we communicate now. We got texting. We got emails. You can get messages across a lot faster. Back in the 70s, you had to write a letter. Write the letter and fold it up and put it into an envelope. And then get yourself a stamp and then wait a few days, 6 to 8 days or something like that. Sometimes it would take 3 days before you get your message over. Now you could send the email to wrong people, wrong groups of people. I'm right by a heater vent. It always blows me away how heaters work when you don't want them to. This room is perfectly fine, but the heater keeps coming on. So, how are things so far? Have I kept it interesting? I'll have to do some more video watching. See what we can talk about. Talk about our dreams. The dreams we want to come true. All the weird stuff we've eaten. We've eaten cuttlefish, squid, and then there's plants. There's a plant called miner's lettuce that I used to eat. I would see it next to the river that I walked by. It looked like spinach, this miner's lettuce. It just grew wild and it tasted pretty good. It's called miner's lettuce. And then blackberries, being able to pick up blackberries. I helped a lady pick blackberries once. Then there was seeing a drought happen. The drought was kind of disturbing. Is it? Yeah. I heard about bamboo. Bamboo is like that. If and trees from time to time. If one tree my dog is barking. My mom knows I have a podcast going. So anyway, she's on the phone. She decided to be on the phone. And so anyways, that's just my dog in the other room barking. He's expecting somebody to take him out. And so I wonder when she was going to say that. We have an agreement, my mother and I. I say, I'm about to do a stream. I wish my situation, what do they call it? I wonder how many people are forced to live with their family members now. Because rent is so high. I used to remember rent-controlled apartments. You ever seen the movie Joe's Apartment? It was about roaches. Welcome to Joe's apartment. But they were talking about rent-controlled apartments. You know, they never go up in price. And the only way you can get a rent-controlled apartment is if the previous resident passes away or moves out. So people are waiting on that one apartment that they really want, waiting for somebody to either die or move out. And it's like, there's no way they're going to move out. So anyway, now it seems like people are forced to live with family members, or they're forced to live where they don't want to live. I remember that in California. I moved a few times because I was able to. And it's like, it's harder when you can't move. You got a noisy neighbor. You got a Karen living next to you. You got a Karen living under you. There's some good sides and bad sides of living in an apartment. If something breaks down, the landlord is responsible for fixing it. But if you live in your own home, you have to fix it. If your water heater stops working, or if your washer or dryer stops working, that's why people need to get those, what are they called? Warranties? Guarantees? No, warranty. So if your washer breaks down, they can come out and fix it, you know. So I guess if I can afford an apartment, that's the way I'd go. Because then, like, if your air conditioner breaks down, or you're provided with, because there was an apartment that I used to work at. It was an apartment complex, and they had a washer and dryer in the apartment. Mine had a stackable washer and dryer, and if something happened, how you doing? So this is Awkward Jackal. I guess I was rambling on about gray stuff, stuff that keeps us. We're talking about cuttlefish, talking about people willing their pets to people. So yeah, so great of you to join. So I guess you guys are going to be regular visitors. I'll have to remember you guys are regular or a friend to the show. That's what we'll call you. We got so friends to the show. People who like talking about alternate universes, documentaries, stairs that appear in the forest. Have you heard about those? There's stairs that just randomly appear in the forest. Nobody wants to talk about them. I think it's in Yellowstone. People are walking through the forest and they just see a staircase that's well maintained. It looks like it was just taken out of a house and put there. A lot of scary things happen. People lose limbs or like their personalities change, weird stuff like that. That's all right. Oh, you've seen pictures of those, yeah. Imagine that. That would be very, like, my curiosity would probably get the best of me. Walking through the forest and all of a sudden there's a stairwell. Reminds me of that, the Winchester house. The Winchester house has stairs that just go up to nowhere. I went to the Winchester house one time and had to pay I guess an admission fee, and a tour guide took us through the Winchester house. It was called the Winchester Mystery House, and they said you had to have a tour guide because you could get lost in there. Yeah, yeah. Wasn't that cool? The whole story of Winchester. She was visited by spirits, I guess, or the psychic she saw said you have to you have to keep building on the house as penance, I guess, for the people who were killed by the Winchester rifle. That lady was rich and she had spare time. She just kept hiring people to build on the house. They took you through to her seance room. So yeah. And then there's Old Sacramento. That was another place that had ghost stories. That one you pay like $30 and a guy with a top hat and a cane. No, I haven't. Oh yeah, wait a minute. I think I have. Wasn't it a house? It was a house where uh, you can stand, and it looks like gravity affects it differently. I think it's called the Mystery Spot. I've seen documentaries about that. It's like I think the Grimm Collective went there. It was the Grimm Collective. It's a husband and wife. Yeah, yeah, the Mystery Spot. And I think it's the way the house was built, that makes it look like balls are just rolling around by themselves, or certain feats of gravity. And then Ripley's Believe It or Not museums. In San Francisco, there were a lot of those. Or there was one I remember particularly. They had like the world's fattest man, the world's tallest man. They had some illusions there. And like a two-headed snake and three-headed goat and stuff like that. Ripley's Believe It or Not. There was a TV series called Ripley's Believe It or Not. Yeah. Ripley's Believe It or Not. Robert L. Ripley was the guy. And then there was Barnum and Bailey. Barnum and Bailey had their freak show. Freak shows are still going on today. People sticking things up their nose and swallowing swords and tattooing themselves. or shaping themselves like animals. Those are kind of cool. So we got one person now. Maybe we'll do this more often. This will be our little powwow. We could tell our friends, and we could all just right around 4 or 5 o'clock start talking about the strange, the bizarre. I'll have to do like I want to have guests on. That would be kind of neat. That would help with our podcast. A lot of people having guests on. Some people who actually saw things happen. There was a guy that I talked to on this stream, or I think was there during Columbine. There was a lot of heroic acts that happened during that Columbine shooting. There was a teacher that ushered some kids to safety, and then he wound up being shot. One of the male teachers there. There was a lot of people who risked their lives to save others. Those are always good stories, really touching. Like there was one girl who pushed some toddlers out of the way of an oncoming vehicle. I'm going to have to post some of those on my community. Yeah, it inspired Bowling for Columbine. A lot of memories, things that I wish wouldn't happen. There's a lot of in our just American history that happened. Things that are just horrible. But then good people are always doing something good. They're always, whenever there is a catastrophe that happens, there's always some really heroic things that happen. It seems like it takes something tragic to happen to really bring out the best in people. Just like, yeah, it's like it's weird how reality just takes changes and shifts. Stuff you never thought would happen. And it makes you wonder, you know, what caused all of it? What caused all these problems? Because I used to think about cause and effect. And in order to get yourself somewhere, you have to do something. But sometimes it's somebody else's actions. Someone else chooses to do something and it affects everybody. And here you are trying to prevent problems by behaving yourself, and then it takes somebody else's actions to screw it all up, to make things rough, and make things rough for everybody. As I was talking earlier about serial killers, there was one serial killer I heard about that he wouldn't go into somebody's house if the door was unlocked. If the door was locked, he would not go into their house. And if the door was unlocked, he would take that as an invitation. So there's a lot of people he didn't kill because the door was locked. And then sometimes being nice to a person. I heard that also. One guy wrote a letter to a lady. He was a hitchhiker. He hitched a ride with the lady, and the lady was nice to him. And he wrote her a letter saying, "I was going to kill you, but you were so nice to me, I decided not to." So it's like, wow, just being nice to people, that could save your life. And what I've noticed is people remember. If you do something nice for somebody, they remember, even though you forgot doing that act of kindness, they remember it, and then they recite it to you. Somebody did that to me one time. I was feeling pretty down, and a guy told me how he remembered Yeah, there was some like they make them run around. They hunt them down like animals because it's like they feel like animals aren't enough. Animals are like it's like there's it's more thrilling. I think there was a movie 31 or something like that. It was a Rob Zombie movie. It was about that. Some really rich, crazy people had a group of people that they hunted. Let me see if I read that right. I gotta reread stuff. Yep, I remember those stories too. Everybody has a certain method of operation, you know, a certain plan that they stick to, and I think that was what that was about. That movie, I remember it was a Rob Zombie movie. It was made after Devil's Rejects. The whole movie was about some rich people who, I guess they turned them loose in a house, and that was a competition. All these like aristocrats. Yeah, yeah. There's a lot of noise going on today. I wonder if it's being picked up by the microphone. I wonder if I'm being loud. If I'm being loud, then that means that my mother is on a phone with some people, and she's. Anyways, I'm getting distracted. Yeah, I think that's the worst. Is the ones that are targeting children. You know, people who. Yes, I remember that. That guy had parked a truck full of fertilizer in front of that government building. Timothy McVeigh, I think his name was. Timothy McVeigh. Wow, we're talking about some grim stuff today. The how people can affect the lives of others. People who just want to live normal lives. Yeah. So, wow, we got two people today. I guess we're getting somewhere. I guess if you build it, they will come. Isn't that what that Kevin Costner movie is about? If you build it, they will come. If you build the ditches, the rains will come. That's what Anthony Hopkins was saying. Build the ditches, and the rains will come. You have to keep believing. You must believe. That guy has a pretty good career, Anthony Hopkins. He played Odin. He played Hannibal Lecter. I remember that back in the 90s when that movie first came out. I didn't get to see it in the theaters. Yeah. So, yeah. Mom's talking about her hair appointment. She's so into her hair. A lot of ladies are. They really, um, the Bible says that their hair is their crown and glory. It's that crown and glory. You have to notice a woman's hair when she's done something to it. If you don't, they will get upset. And when ladies get upset, people die. Well, I've had quite a bit of fun, haven't you? Hasn't this been fun, kids? Just to, I guess I went from Uncle Eddie to Grandpa Eddie. People are calling me Grandpa. In my comments, somebody said I'm a Sigma Grandpa. Somebody said something like, Old Ed. Old Ed, get off the internet, or something like that. You know you're old when people start calling you old. When they, you love my vids. Well, cool, thank you. I'll keep it up. I made 3 new ones today. I guess it's getting to be supper time. I got to get some supper going. It's been real fun talking to you all. Wow, 2 hours. We've been at this for 2 hours. How about that? How do people call me by? These, just Ed. Most of the time it's Ed. I guess Ed is the shortest way to say it. Instead of Edmund. Edmund. Yeah, like Ted or Jerry or Tom, you know. I guess it's a term of endearment. You know Ed? Or I get Big Ed a lot. People call me Big Ed. Hey Big Ed! I guess I'm bigger than most people. I'm not 6'9". You know what? I think so. You are the only one. I will never give up. I've always been inspired. I like getting inspired to make a video because sometimes it's just questions like, what do you want on your pizza? What do you like to have on your pizza? Or what do you carry around for good luck? That's another short I made. What do you do for good luck? I used to have a horseshoe that I wore. I had a little gold horseshoe. I think horseshoes and clovers, rabbit's foot. I have a rabbit's foot. A rabbit's foot. So it's kind of funny. Listen to my mom on the phone. When my mom's on the phone with somebody, the stuff she talks about. Yeah, I want her to cut my hair. I like the way she cuts my hair. Or Marge, do you want to go to Walmart today? Do you want to go? She loves Walmart. She should own stock in Walmart. That way she could watch the price of her shares go up. I'm getting distracted. What were we talking about? We were talking about serial killers. We were talking about what dreams we have. What dreams may come was a Robin Williams movie. Okay, right on. I think it'll be time for me to eat pretty soon. What time zone are you all in? I think it's around 5 o'clock right now. I want to get a clock on the wall so I can know what time it is. All the time I have to have my watch. I have to have my watch to tell me what time it is. And I'm using my phone right now, so I can't tell what time it is on my phone. So, I hope tomorrow my vision is better. My vision is getting blurry all of a sudden. I think it's my appetite or my diet. My diet is affecting my vision. I need to get up and get out, get some more fresh air. So maybe we'll talk more tomorrow. Tomorrow's Monday. We can get back to this. This is kind of cool that we're doing this. It's our little powwow. This little thing we do. We'll see what we can talk about. I'll see if I can come up with some good material tomorrow. So I'll go out and tell my mom hi. I think she's getting lonely out there. My mommy's been taking care of me until I get this business off the ground. So I will see you all tomorrow. I'll try to come up with some more material for my shorts. So until then, I guess we say sayonara. Sayonara.